Most video games consider it polite to wait a little bit before they try to murder you. You know, maybe teach you some controls in a consequence-free environment so that your first experience with the game isn't an immediate violent death. The games in this video, however, are not polite. In fact, if anything, they're downright rude as they come at you straight out of the gate, guns blazing, ready to turn game start into game over as quickly as possible. So brace yourselves for these inconsiderate games that tried their best to murder you immediately. Enjoy, and beware some minor spoilers ahead for the following.
So like Flowey from Undertale?
Well, no, actually, that's an important distinction that I should make here at the top of the video, because what happens there is that is a character trying to kill you,
Right.
but then the game's stopping it from happening, because you can't actually die in that situation. It's basically a cutscene, which there is no way of dying in, so it doesn't qualify for this list. So if you were marching to the comments now, Mike, I can see you doing it, put your laptop away.
Oh.
Don't say Flowey from Undertale. Stop it, I can see you've typed FL. Delete them.
Okay, I'm writing something else.
All right.
Love this video.
Fluff this video.
That's what it says now.
It's a weird thing to type.
If you've ever played a Need for Speed game, you'll recall that they are driving games, and as such, unlikely to attempt to murder your character in the first 15 seconds. Unless you can't figure out which buttons brake. Not so Need for Speed The Run, however, which starts with you, unconscious, in a Porsche 911, being lowered into a car crusher. This isn't just because you've dozed off in a junkyard, as you can probably tell from the fact that your hands are duct taped to the steering wheel. In the game, you play as a street racer who is in debt to the mob. Hence them making a rather extreme example of you in the first minute of what I will remind you is a car racing game. Anyway, if you want to do any actual racing, you're going to have to pass a series of quick-time events to escape the car. Otherwise, you're going to get cubed, and that's going to have a serious effect on your ability to drive, you'd think. And while some of these QTE steps are impossible to fail, there are a couple where, if you're not paying attention, it's game over for real 30 seconds into the game. You do have to try quite hard though. Like, you ever start climbing out of a car crusher, then just forget what it was you were doing? Happens to the best of us.
Things you didn't want to see.
It spoke to me.
What did it say, Isaac? What did it say to you, Isaac? Isaac, can you hear me?
If you were in any doubt as to whether spacey survival horror sequel Dead Space 2 was going to be scary, your question was answered immediately when the man telling you you're in terrible danger gets impaled by an alien knife monster.
You're in terrible, terrible danger.
I mean, he's not wrong. What follows is one of the most stressful opening sequences in video game history, as you, playing as poor protagonist Isaac Clarke, now have to run through a Halloween Horror Nights scare zone full of flickering lights, terrifying sounds, and deadly jump scare necromorphs, all of whom are trying super hard to kill you, considering that we pressed the start button 3 minutes ago. Best of all, you're in a straitjacket, meaning you can't fight back, and all you can do is run around in a blind panic, hoping you're taking the right corridors, because if you aren't, you're getting a knife arm in the face. Eventually, you make it to safety where, nope, okay, still not safety, I guess. As I was saying, eventually you do make it to safety and you're cut out of the straitjacket and can start actually using weapons and fighting back against the many horrors of the game. Oh, thank God. Okay, hopefully it'll be a bit more chill from here on out, right, new friend? Right, got it.
Well, you've come to the right place. Yarnum is the home of blood ministration. You need only unravel its mystery. But where's an outsider like yourself to begin?
Souls games are famously hard, of course, but it's a special kind of game that boots you right from character creation into being trapped in a room with a werewolf while you're armed with nothing. And that game is Bloodborne, which sets its stall out earlier than a tuna salesman at Tokiji Fish Market by throwing a ravenous scourge beast at players while they have no weapons or armour and have been playing for less than a minute. As terrifying and brutal as this is for new players, you can't deny that it's a pretty good representation of what they should expect in Bloodborne. Also, technically you are supposed to die here, as dying in Bloodborne grants you access to the Hunter's Dream hub world, where you get given your starter weapons and can upgrade your character. But if you're good enough at Bloodborne, you can instead beat this werewolf to death with your bare fists and just carry on about your business. And that's where a clip of that happening would have gone if I'd ever been able to do it. What? Bloodborne is hard.
Wanna play games? Okay, I'll play with you. You wanna play rap? Say hello to my little friend!
Scarface, The World Is Yours is set after the events of the movie Scarface, which you'd think would be tricky on account of the fact that player character Tony Montana died at the end. But rather than being a fun, spooky adventure in which you play Tony Montana's ghost as it flies around trying to right the wrongs he caused while he was alive, the game instead presents a what-if scenario where Tony survived the attack on his mansion at the end of the film, and then went on to do a bunch of subpar Grand Theft Auto missions while filling up something the game honestly called the balls meter. The very start of the game drops you into Tony's Italian leather shoes during the movie's climactic shootout. If you've seen the film, you know that Tony dies from being shot in the back, so you turn around and blast the assassin before he can kill you. If you haven't seen the film, however, you'd be forgiven for not realising that a cartel hitman is sneaking up on you, and be having so much fun blasting people that you set yourself up for one of the quickest game overs in history as you're shot in the back and end up face down in the fountain just like in the movie. That was your problem, movie Tony Montana. No balls meter.
When it comes to intense opening sequences, you'd think it would be hard to top the original Resident Evil 3, which starts with Jill Valentine somersaulting out of an exploding apartment building full of on-fire zombies. The Resident Evil 3 remake, however, took one look at that and said, hold my Erlenmeyer flask full of T-virus, because its opening sequence is a much worse time for Jill in every conceivable way. Starting with a brief first-person sequence in which you get to poke around Jill's stylish industrial chic apartment, the peace and quiet is shattered by the appearance of the game's persistent antagonist and eventual final boss, the Nemesis, who, true to form, doesn't use the door to get in. Players can then look forward to a harrowing 5 minutes of Jill having her ass kicked all over her now on-fire apartment building, a brutal chase where slowing down even for a moment means game over, and the short time spent not running away from the hulking, terrifying bioweapon is spent being chokeslammed through walls. Survive that, and the game then dumps you into a street full of zombies with half health and no weapon, and a new control scheme because it's third person now. At least you've got a new partner now in the form of Brad, who should make things a little easier when... Why does this keep happening?
They are rage, brutal, without mercy. But you will be worse. Rip and tear until it is done.
In Doom, you play the Doom Slayer, a monumental beef castle of a man who kicked so much ass his foot was made an honorary citizen of Demon Butts. As such, there aren't many situations in which you would consider yourself vulnerable in the game. After all, the whole point of Doom is that you pinball your way through various heavy metal album cover looking levels, shooting, punching, ripping and tearing demons until the job is done. Dying isn't really a part of the equation.
Demonic presence at unsafe levels. Mark 1, endpoint.
For you, I mean, lots of dying for the demons. In fact, the only time in the game you could be said to be vulnerable is right at the very start, when you wake up naked and chained hand and foot to a stone slab surrounded by zombies. Naturally, the Doomslayer isn't having any of this and so tears himself free, smashes in the head of the first demon, and then grabs a pistol off the floor. That's where the cutscene ends and you come in, naked, armed with a pea shooter, and in a room full of rapidly advancing zombies who, on higher difficulty levels, can really put a dent in your plan to kill everything in hell. It's only once you kill these guys that you're able to put on the Doomslayer's Praetor armor, at which point you're a bit better equipped to handle everything the forces of hell have to throw at you. To be honest, it is pretty much non-stop glory kills from there on, so it's only fair that the zombies got to take the first swing.
Jump into the time rip! Do it now! You've got to! If I take the time to explain we're both parking lot pizza, you'll understand soon.
You might well feel disoriented at the beginning of Space Quest 4. For a start, in the intro you're bundled into a time rip and end up in a completely different game, Space Quest 12.
Along with the changes induced by an armed conflict, the city looks different, more modern with a heavy dash of post-disaster seasoning. Casually glancing at the status line, you happen to notice that you're in Space Quest 12.
Bold of you to assume you'd make it to 12 games, Space Quest. Who do you think you are, the Fast and Furious franchise? Yes, it's exceptionally confusing to be dumped directly onto a post-apocalyptic hell planet right at the start of the game. A game that, unlike those friendly, cuddly LucasArts point-and-click adventures, is more than happy to kill its hero Roger Wilco in a variety of colourful and painful ways.
The young shuttle pilot, his seat suddenly humidified by your surprise entry, fires his pulse ray. The shot just misses you and then bounces off the reflective surfaces of the cabin, eventually managing to fatally perforate you. Just as you fade from the Living Organism Club, you think in amazement, so that's what my spleen looks like.
So you're telling me I can't pick up spleen and then use spleen on smoking chest cavity hole? Dang. It seems unfair that the confusing very first area of the game is also easily its most deadly. Downtown Xenon is patrolled by a murderous floating robot who at least has the good grace to play an ominous theme tune as it approaches, giving you a generous quarter of a second to hide somewhere.
Glad you could play Space Quest 4. As usual, you've been a real pantload.
Better than a fake pant load, I guess. Try and look on the bright side here. Even if you do manage to avoid the patrol route of the killer robot, you can also be unceremoniously murked by the heavily armed sequel police, accidentally blow yourself up with a piece of radioactive ordnance, or come across this guy wearing a device not unlike the one I used to stay awake during the final series of Lost, who points at you, screams, and alerts the murderous floating robot again. Pick up game disc, use game disc with trash can.
We hope you'll get yourself together and rejoin us. Isn't this a blast?
Hey, thanks for watching this video about games that try to kill you immediately. And I will kill you immediately if you don't click. I'm not going to do that. But I would appreciate it a lot if you would click on one of these two videos. This one is from us, and it's about something cool and interesting. Down here's one from Outside Extra that I think you will also enjoy. Tell them Andy sent you. That's a personal recommendation. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Click them, you will kill again.
I won't. I'm a peaceful man.